but she was not prepared for the deceit that followed.
I purchased it and paid the charges, and stamp duty and other charges I have already paid. But after around 2 years later on, I have discovered that 2 different rates are being charged by different colonizers. And one set of colonizer is charging 5, 6 and 7%, whereas the other one is charging 3, 4 and 5%. So my question is that for the same area, why there are 2 different sets of stamp duty charges are being collected from the average house owner?
Retired Army officer Colonel Tandon also stumbled upon a peculiar irregularity in the registration of his flat.
बिल्डर ने क्या किया, 1812 स्क्वायर फीट का जो फ्लैट्स जो कि उसने डिक्लेरेशन भरी है गवर्नमेंट के डीटीसी को और रजिस्ट्रार को, वो रेजिडेंस को उसने 2032 स्क्वायर फीट दिखाकर दे दिया और उसकी रजिस्ट्री भी करा दी। इससे क्या हुआ कि रेजिडेंस जो भी फ्लैट बायर है उसको 220 स्क्वायर फीट के पैसे ज्यादा देने पड़े, जो ना कि गवर्नमेंट के पास गए लेकिन वो सीधे बिल्डर के पास गए, उसके ऊपर उसको एक्स्ट्रा स्टैंप ड्यूटी भी देनी पड़ी।
In both cases, like any common home seeker, they trusted that the figures quoted by their builder in the official documents would be accurate, be it the stamp duty or be it the size of their unit. Ashish Kaul, who has been rallying together with other residents, filing RTIs and demanding answers from their builders, says that irregularities in the valuation of your flat is spread across property markets in Haryana.
Some builders are charging collector rate at the present prescribed rate of the registering authority, which is 4,000 rupees per square feet. But some builders are undervaluing the property and getting it registered on 2,300. Now, if I do not know, the builder is sending me this statement that you have to pay at the rate 2,300. I am paying it understandingly that this is the correct statement and the amount that I have to pay is justified and this is what the authority is demanding. But the builder is undervaluing my property. Tomorrow, I am uncertain what my liabilities will be towards the registration authorities.
With no fixed guidelines to determine the valuation of a flat, every builder follows his own calculation. Some add external and internal development charges and enhanced development charges to the basic sale price to arrive at the final valuation. Some others add escalated area charge, increased material costs, preferred location charges, car parking, power backup charges and the likes to determine the final valuation. But RTI queries clearly state that only the allotment price of the flat is taken for registration and no other overhead components can be considered. These revelations are just the tip of the iceberg. Many hapless buyers fall for the gimmickry of fancy marketing. But until the industry gets a regulator, you need to become your own watchdog. Start asking questions, demand to know what you're paying for. Vasudha Sharma, NDTV.
All right, let's bring on our panelists and decode what's really charged to you as a flat buyer. Pankaj Bajaj, MD Eldeco Infrastructure, will join us. We also have Ashish Kaul, VP Federation of Apartment Owners Association, Greater Faridabad, here in the Delhi studio. Nishant Singhal, Promoter and Director, Strategy Investors Clinic, and of course Sameer Jasuja with me to take your Q&As. But before that, also give his view on this discussion. So gentlemen, the way I'm looking at it, if I could just sum up Vasudha's story, one is that there are some irregularities in calculation of price of the flat. The violation is 2 stamp duty rates in one location. How is that possible? Nishant, that question is for you. I mean, how is that possible at all? And I'm not talking about different categories, that it's a different stamp duty for a woman versus, you know, joint holding versus a single main registration. There are times where you've seen differences in just registration values.
See, registration values are announced locally. Okay, so there would be variations because they get revised over a period of time. As far as difference in registration rates between males and females are concerned, for example, in state of Haryana government wants to promote ownership of women in terms of property, so they give a 1% discount. Generally the rate is 7%. If there is a joint owner who's a female, the rate is 6%.
Okay.
So these are transparent. I don't think so. At least I have not come across a case where there is non-transparency.
Okay, so maybe that's very, very minor. But I think the big thing which a lot of buyers also had an objection to, and Ashish, correct me if I'm wrong, you know, the stamp duty keeps changing, and as the delay happens in possession, that's a big area of concern for the buyer, isn't it?
Correct. See, when I book a flat, I know within 3 years I'll get the delivery of the flat. I'm prepared to shell out the registration charges, which will be of that year, particular year. Maybe I know today the collector rate is 10,000 rupees per square yard. So I know in the next 3 years it could be 30,000. So I'm willing to pay that. But when the delay happens for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, the collector rate goes up to 1 lakh rupees.
Right.
That is where I get, you know, the shock.
I'm confused here because I pay my stamp duty on the value that I have signed up for at that particular time when I signed the agreement to sell.
Right.
And the stamp duties have only been going down. So the consumer should be happy if you pick up the last 10 years.
Not everywhere have stamp duties or circle rates been going down.
Circle rate is a completely different topic altogether. Circle rate relates to the value of the property, and that you should not register below that value, and in 9 out of 10 cases the value in the market is much higher.
Correct.
And if you bought a property before and your transacted value is before, agreement to sell is before, you don't need, circle rate also sometimes doesn't even apply to you. But with respect to stamp duty, if you look at it, it used to be as high as 10 to 12% at one point in time. Today it has come down to 4 to 5% in certain cities and 6 to 7% in certain other cities. So really speaking, this is not that much of a cost.
Oh, it is. It is. That's what you feel.
No,
maybe
with
at a
respect to the
certain
differential.
No, so
Even if it goes up by half
it's
a
not
percent to
come down
1%.
in every city. I don't think that's correct.
No,
that
the
it's
stamp
come
duty
down.
rates have come down.
Yeah.
But see, in an area within sector 75 to 89 in Faridabad, 2 types of duties are being charged. One is 3-4-5% in the same area, and another builder is charging 4-5-6-7%.
All right.
So how can it be that in the same area 2 stamp duty rates can be charged? There has to be uniformity. A builder cannot arbitrarily charge 3-4-5% and 5-6-7%.
But then the builder is committing a fraud. It's as simple as that.
That is what builders do.
Defined
But
by
this is a very
developers.
small percentage, increase of 2%. Suppose I was supposed to pay only 4%, but he's charging 6%. I'm paying only 2% extra. But why am I paying 20,000 rupees extra?
But that's to do with the builder, not to do with the government.
Exactly.
It is
No.
not to do with the
So we
government.
are talking about builder. We're
Yeah,
saying how
so
the
the
builders
builder
load up
is-
your prices. So no, Sameer, we are not saying that the government is at
No, but
fault
if
here.
you see the builder buyer agreements-
The discussion is that why are builders charging different stamp duties
Rate.
despite being in similar localities?
No, Manisha, if you see the builder buyer agreements, in fact, the stamp duty rates are not defined in the builder buyer. It says as per actuals.
Correct.
Whatever is the rate at the time of registration, and as Sameer mentioned, it is on my original cost of purchase. Okay, so if I bought at 3,000 rupees per square feet in Noida 3 years back, I will pay stamp duty on 3,000 rupees per square feet. Circle rates don't even come in picture. It's only when the property gets resold, the buyer will have to pay based on the circle rates. So
All right.
stamp duty is defined by government. It cannot be defined by developers.
And you're
B
saying stamp duty has been
is-
coming down.
Yeah.
Ashish is saying that there are developers who are probably committing some sort of fraud, and stamp duty rates are different by in
One
different
builder
sectors.
in the same sector,
Okay.
2 builders are charging 2 different rates.
But I'm not sure, because stamp duty cannot be collected by the developer. It will be collected by the
It is always collected by the
It
developer.
is collected by the developer, but he is supposed to ensure that he buys that much worth stamp paper
Yeah.
and gets it registered in favor of the buyer.
Correct.
But it's always collected by the developer.
So what is happening? If it's anyway, he's collecting that duty is going to the government.
Yeah, but it's
So
a very
where
simple
is he
case.
keeping it?
It's a very
He's not
simple
keeping
case
it.
of. I'll answer that
saying-
question.
yeah.
It's a very simple case of fraud. There are many cases that have come up. This is strange because this is known to everybody.
Right.
The typical cases that come up in such a situation where consumers get really defrauded or defrauded is when the EDC, external development charges, developers play around with, and that's a
Yes.
huge sum of money.
Absolutely. So we are
Stamp
going to
duty
come
is not
to
that much. So I have known of cases where the developer has paid only 80 rupees a square feet and got the license as per 80 rupees a square feet, but the new EDC charges in that sector or micro market was say 300 rupees a square foot. So he went back to the consumer and said the new EDC charges are 300, so you are supposed to pay me 300,
Absolutely.
which is completely criminal. It's a criminal act and it's defrauding the government in the name of the government, the consumer.
The consumer. So let's just get to that as well. You know, arbitrary addition of overhead costs. Now, what are these costs? There is, of course, BSP, then EDC, one big thing that you pointed out. We also did a story very recently asking where are all the EDC charges. Pankaj, where do all the EDC charges go, and are the developers really in full faith? Can you tell us whether the developers are being completely clean on that front?
Well, I wouldn't deny that there have been reports of developers collecting EDC and then not depositing them. But frankly, it is completely unconscionable. And just like the stamp duty episode that you were talking about, EDC should also be transparent. In fact, in our company, we maintain a separate escrow account. We collect EDC in a separate account, and we transparently transfer it to the government. And in fact, if some developers, and it's not that, frankly, I would defend my community by saying I don't think it is rampant. And I don't think that it is happening across the industry that people are collecting excess EDC charges and not transferring to the government. There could be one-off cases which I think should be pursued and prosecuted. Frankly, I can't defend it at all.
No, absolutely. So, but I think there's a disconnect. I don't think it's one-off cases because there have been ample number of stories. Nishant, correct me if I'm wrong. Media has been reporting it quite extensively, and Samir has been pointing it out on the show as well. EDC, clearly there's a lot of gap.
So I'll answer that question also. There's a gap in 99% of the cases.
Yes.
The gap there is that EDC is paid on built-up area and charged on super area.
Super area.
So that in itself is a fraud of 5 to 7 crores per project.
Nishant.
No, I think if you are talking about these aspects, then for example, the difference between the super area and the carpet area, there's a lot of...
So that's the biggest fraud going around in the country, but let's not get to that. But I mean, let's just say simple things, just the way they kept burdening the consumer. How do you bring in transparency? I mean, EDC is one big thing. So I just wanted, and my viewer needs to know that yes, it's happening and it's quite rampant. Okay, let's come to something called preferred location charges, PLC. Now, for God's sake, in any project, Nishant, take 100 flats. How do 75 have PLC? How can 75 flats out of 100 flats in a project, that's 75% be preferred locations?
No, in some projects, 100%.
100% are preferred locations. What is preferred location? I mean, why is every flat a preferred location, and what are these PLC charges? Every flat cannot be a preferred location.
I agree. So, for example, we charge PLC for park-facing apartments. Now, if you're buying an apartment above, say, 12th floor, ideally there should not be any preferred location charge for example, park view for an apartment above 12th floor.
Everyone will have a park view from that height.
Yes. So, no, but you're not enjoying that view because it's not in your eye line.
Okay.
So, probably up to the 6th floor or the 9th floor, a park view facing can be charged, right? So, I agree. In most of the projects, 75%
So haven't you as an intermediary questioned this? Pankaj, why is every flat has a PLC? Why?
I'd like to answer this question.
Yeah.
No, I would definitely like to answer this question. I did not defend my community on the EDC point, but I would definitely like to defend them here. It is a purely commercial decision. The PLC which is payable on any flat or any unit is declared upfront. It is for the buyer to whether to go for that unit or not go for that unit. It is a purely commercial thing. If you do not like the pricing, if you do not like the view, don't buy it. I mean, what is ethically wrong in 90 apartments out of 100 having a PLC? There's no problem. It is a commercial and a pricing issue. I do not think there is an ethical issue here at all.
Pankaj, why not put it in the BSP? It leaves buyers very confused. You know, everybody looks at the BSP.
Strategy. Can I answer that question? No. Pankaj, I'll answer that question. You know, in your defense.
Manisha, if it is declared upfront, I do not find any problem with this.
I'll answer that question. I'll address Pankaj's view as well. Basically, Pankaj is absolutely right. It's a commercial decision, but why PLC in 75% of the apartments and not in 25%? Yeah, in 100, that happens. It can be added on to the BSP, but why it's not added on is because certain apartments are very inferior locations. So you need to differentiate the pricing between inferior, average and superior. That is what happens. So the developer also knows when he's on the planning stage that there are certain apartments from a Vastu perspective that may not be okay, certain apartments that may not get that kind of sunlight. So he is okay with letting those apartments go in pure BSP because he'll be saddled with that inventory. And with respect to the apartments that are average or above average, he'll charge differential PLC. And that's purely a pricing play. He could do it in BSP, but you know, like your pricing strategy is 99 rupees and not 100 rupees. They want to keep the BSP low because psychologically the person thinks the pluses I'll pay later and they won't affect me right now. So
Tell
it's a part
as
psychological
you
issue.
know, Federation of Apartments Owners, don't you wish that there was lesser of these plus charges? See, and you just knew what price you were paying?
He says if this price has been disclosed upfront, no builder disclose it upfront. When he's selling,
that's not correct. That's not correct. I don't.
I'll tell you why.
Because we bought some flats or one flat, and the PLC was declared upfront.
No, it is not upfront. It is not upfront. It is that this project with so many amenities, with a superstar club, etc. The brochure says this only. Is available at this price. Right now you said in your show that the property is available at a budget price of 25 lakhs. Nowhere does it say there will be PLC also. Right. There will be this also. No, nowhere. It is only after you have made that booking amount and when your allotment is going to happen, at that time you will know that there is a PLC of 150 rupees or 300 rupees.
No. At that he's partly right. I'll answer that question. This is only in cases of pre-launches. There's only in cases where you are desperate to buy the apartment and you want to pay that 5 lakh booking check and not care about you're really an investor where you want to flip the property. So by the time the PLC even comes to you, you don't even really care about it because you've exited the property.
Plus minus 5%
if you are an end user, you'll wait for the launch to happen. When the launch happens, everything will be declared and then you buy.
Okay, so the PLC and other charges are absolutely a grey area if you're buying in the pre-launch phase.
Yes,
but they become,
right.
At least you can see the document and you know what you're going to pay for. If you buy it at the launch phase, when you have a buyer-seller agreement, this should be something which should be declared.
Even if we take their line of argument, and it is declared beforehand that on the 18th floor there is a Parkview PLC. He says he's come down to the 6th floor and he says it's I-line. It is not. Even the 3rd floor guy, it's not I-line. Park is not I-line for him. Maybe a ground floor person can pay PLC, but why on the 18th floor or the 20th floor?
So I think the whole concept of a PLC itself is debatable. I think that, there's no way that 90% or 100% inventory in a project can be charged a PLC, and it is happening, Sameer. You're saying, you're taking, it is a commercial
psychologically trying to affect the customer by charging a low BSP and making him feel that way.
If it's a 99 rupees versus a 101 rupee, you can do barter pricing. This is not about barter pricing. The loading goes up to 40%. Of the basic
has nothing to do with loading.
No, all of these together. We're coming to covered parking charges, power backup charges. We're just looking at external electrification, firefighting charges, meter charges, club membership, all of that, right? So I'm just saying that the big question mark here, which probably Pankaj you would like to answer, is that when is it? I mean, does the industry believe, is there a thinking that maybe forget the club membership, but all of these other charges which are plus, and the plus list is probably growing by the day, should not be a plus? Why not sell at that super area? I know the regulator will probably compel everybody to do so if we do have a regulator, but would the industry be happy doing so and making it less confusing for the buyer?
No, I don't think the regulator is concerned with the pricing at all. The regulator is concerned with transparency. The regulator does not want you to foist hidden charges later on. And I'm sorry to say, Manisha, for once I disagree with you. Most of these charges are declared upfront. They're in the price list. And it is actually, and your question is, doesn't the builder community make life simpler for the buying community and club it all together in one bundled cost? Well, frankly, it is barter pricing. It is optical pricing. It looks good. I went to buy a car a few days ago and it was a fancy car and the basic price was something and they said, you have to pay extra for the armrest, you have to pay extra for this paint, for that paint, and it all came to something else. But the point is it was being all told to me upfront, and I had a choice at that point in time to not buy the car. I went ahead and bought the car. If these charges are foisted upon me at a later date and I do not have a choice, then definitely the regulator would start getting interested. And definitely I don't think that I would condone that practice. But otherwise there's no problem. You always have a choice, don't buy it. In fact, you can negotiate it. It is negotiable. You can negotiate. You can say, I'm not going to pay. Here's the check, but my friend, you're getting the check only if you negotiate. There's no problem.
I agree with Pankaj because consumers also want to understand. So if I'm doing a 15,000 square feet club versus a 50,000 square feet club, my club charges will be different, right? If I am designing the project in such a manner that it is low density, it has only large apartments, okay, then probably I'll design in a manner where every apartment will have a park view, right? So I think what Pankaj is trying to say is that everything is open, the layouts are available, the site plan is available, and you are free to don't buy on the 18th floor with park view facing PLC, buy on the 6th floor. So all charges are transparent, and if you come out with all-inclusive pricing, okay, then it will be very difficult to differentiate between project to project because the location is different, the way it is designed is different, the specs will be different.
I absolutely disagree.
So
I absolutely disagree. If you were to bundle everything together, you would be able to say my product is an orange and that is an apple. Right now, everything looks like a little bit of an apple and then you're just making it a different fruit. By the end of it, you buy. Why not? Why not? I mean, why doesn't the industry have the guts to say, okay, if my project is at 7,500 square foot, guess what? I am giving you these extra amenities. Don't compare me to somebody who's saying that his project is at 5,500 square foot. Look, when you go and buy a car, Nishant, it's a very, very different proposition. There is a basic thing which is available for you at 15 lakhs. In housing, nothing comes at that basic cost. Am I correct or not, Ashish? What comes at the basic cost? You are forced to buy it with the PLC, with the